All right. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. This is Wendy, and this is our full moon in Gemini. It's also the full beaver moon. And our topic tonight is Say It, Hear It, the power of effective communication. Let me just share with you who all is here with us. We've got a great group here. We pull up participants. Okay, so we have Shelley Chase is here as my co-hostess, and we have Melvin Gelb and Samira Johnson, and we have Melanie Kernett. We've got a great group. Awesome. Okay, so the way I like to start this out is just to share a little bit about the astrology of this full moon, and this is what really kind of informs the topic. Right, so first of all, the full beaver moon, that is our American indigenous cultures. They tended to call this moon the full beaver moon or the full frost moon because they noticed that the beavers were out and they were building their lodges. I think this is important to know because the beavers are very social, and they work together as a community to build their lodges, and they're all about family. They have very strong family units. They tend to be monogamous, and they have their newborns, and they also tend to have their yearlings, the children that were born the year before, all working together and living together in the lodge. And the Gemini moon is an air sign, and Gemini is, I put up there on the screen, it's also sometimes known as a messenger moon. It does tend to be, there tends to be an energy about communication and curiosity and just kind of a flightiness. Gemini were twins, so they kind of had a twin speak too, and very intelligent, very intellectual, very kind of just like moving from one topic to another, very, very social. So this is a great time to be holding a workshop on communication, which is what we're up to today. And just a little more specifics about the astrology before we get right into our topic. And this comes from an astrologer that I really admire. Her name is Kathy Rose, and this is her December newsletter. She says, let's begin by examining the importance of the lunar eclipse in Gemini on November 30th, illuminating our path into December. This full moon offers us a powerful reminder of our responsibility in shaping our reality and creating our experiences in life. Essentially, this potent lunation presents a lesson in the word magic, or in word magic. Sounds interesting, doesn't it? Actually, it's not magic at all, rather a guiding light to understanding the importance of our words, and that we have a limited view of life if we only consider the 3 dimensions we experience on this earth plane. In the realm of physics, there's a theory that we actually live in a multi-dimensional universe, and that we have tapped a very small portion of the experience that would be available to us through the quantum view. It is quite possible that we will see amazing breakthroughs in quantum physics in the next 20 years, and that science will finally be able to explain and measure the power of our words and thoughts. But for now, we need to be brave enough to reach out into those other awesome dimensions and use the laws that go beyond the 3D physical laws that we can currently quantify. The emphasis for this Gemini eclipse at the end of November is to remind us that our words carry frequencies that help to shape our reality. We participate in creating that reality and building our life with our core beliefs expressed through the spoken word every day. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is not at all impossible. Quite the opposite. It is to hold yourself accountable for the frequencies you emit when you speak. Each time you say something limiting, Even if you think you are just being flippant or sarcastic, you are creating an imprint in your reality field. Now is the time to fill your words with loving energy and to carefully select how you phrase your sentences. Be acutely mindful with this full moon eclipse of some of the common expressions you might be using, words that are actually not at all positive. I hear many clients saying, "The stress from this year is killing me," or "I'm sick and tired of all the lockdowns." Do you really want to be sick and tired? Do you really want to be slowly or quickly killed by stress? Constant complaining about politics, other people, even frequent verbalizing physical pain you may be feeling is a form of emotional pollution that lowers one's frequency and energizes the very issue that triggered the complaint. We do need to talk about how we're feeling, and often it helps to discuss our frustrations about the world. However, I urge you to be very careful when you cross a line from productive discussion, moving into non-productive, energizing, and enlivening the very things that make you unhappy. There are so many examples of strong emotion intensifying negative words and feelings, vibrations emitted into our own energy field or into the collective consciousness by being broadcast through mass and social media. The more powerful the emotion, the stronger the quote-unquote magic from manifesting. Your subconscious is an obedient servant, listening to every command you give it and immediately working to obey and create. Often when an emotionally stressful statement is issued, it is done with a powerful power laced with intensity. This makes the command even stronger. Be clear about what you're imprinting into your reality field with your words. Say what you want, not what you don't want. Energize the reality you desire to manifest. Be conscious and consistent. The most important step on this path to enlightened awareness is to realize we all carry responsibility for our personal reality. This starts with positive habits and disciplined word choice. This full moon eclipse in Gemini is a fantastic time to raise your positive communication habits to the next level. Thank you, Kathy Rose. So that is why I wanted to hold this particular workshop around this particular topic tonight on communication. I'm going to skip to the next slide here. Here we go. And this is who we are. Hi, it's Shelly Chase. She's a writer and life happiness coach. She's on the line. I'm Wendy Spurgeon. I'm an integrative life coach, and I'm starting to work more and more as an acting coach and a presentation coach. Theater is starting to come back into my life and my services. We are the Way of Truth. This is essentially, it's a life coaching community, and we offer lots and lots of free help. We're both life coaches. We're both here for the highest good, and we know not everybody can afford our one-on-one, so we have lots and lots of really powerful free offerings, and we offer memberships here that are really affordable. And it is the Way of Truth is about connecting to your own personal heart's wisdom. Kind of, we sort of help you clear away the noise so you can listen to that inner voice, or move through the shadows or the obstacles that are kind of, confusing. Really hear your own inner truth, because you have all the answers you need at the end of the day. And we can be very helpful in creating the environment and the structure for you to really listen to your own wisdom. And our topic tonight is Say It, Hear It, the power of effective communication. Oh, I'm going to go back. There's a few things I want to talk about before we move into that. Just an overview of what we're working on tonight in this training. We'll be looking at several key points about communication and the challenges of communicating effectively. And we're just going to break it down into two very important components that make up communication. So part one is about the messages you send. So in part one, we're going to be looking at the multi-layered structure of our communications and the simultaneous messages you may not realize you are sending. We'll look at the difficulty we sometimes have in connecting with others and how important it is to follow up and make sure that what you really wanted to say was effectively communicated. The need to measure your communication effectiveness by continually assessing your communication skill level. This is something that we can always be working on. And then part two of the training is about the messages you receive from others. And when we move into that, we'll be looking at how you use the skill of listening and how this skill determines what you actually hear. We'll look at how you can assess your current skill level when it comes to listening and how you can immediately improve your listening skills by listening with care. So this is going to be a helpful tool to have and use during any conversation with anyone else. And just what we like to do is, Shelley and I are going to kind of switch off in different parts of this training. We're going to be leading you through the different worksheets and give you time to kind of work on your worksheets. But we also like to have this really interactive. So there will be points when we have some debrief questions, and we'll be inviting you to step up to the microphone, as it were, take yourself off mute and share your comments about what's coming up in these topics and these exercises. And if there's background noise, we'll ask you to mute yourself, or you can even utilize the chat. If there's noise you cannot control in your background, you can still participate with the chat. All right, so with that, I think I'm going to pass it over to Shelley to get us going into our first module of this training. Shelley, take it away.
Thank you, Wendy. Hi, everyone. Module 1 starts by conducting a communication experiment. Communication is critical to positive relationships, whether in business or our personal lives. And effective communication skills are vital for us to live a fulfilling life because we're continuously interacting with others, giving and receiving messages. But despite the importance of communicating effectively, communication skills are a very misunderstood area of human behavior and one of the most challenging skills to successfully use. So everyone, if you would please take out worksheet number 1, which is titled Draw What I Say. And then listen to the directions for that I give you for drawing an image, and draw as I describe. And here's you'll be drawing an animal. So everyone ready? Hopefully you got that out, or you can just use paper for this one, either way. And on your sheet, head and draw a head. Add eyes. Add a mouth. Add pointy ears. Add whiskers. Draw an oval body. Draw a long curly tail. Draw 4 legs. And draw 4 paws. So for the debrief questions, we hope that everyone will share, but go ahead and unmute and tell us what you got, what animal you ended up with. Anybody want to share what animal they ended up? Samira?
I have a very funny looking kitty cat.
Good, thank you, thank you.
Kind of has human eyes and mouth, but maybe cat body.
So, and these questions are for anyone. What prevented us from creating the exact drawing that's on the screen right now?
This is Wendy. I'll pop in. It really could have been any kind of animal, right? Or it could have been several different kinds of animal with pointy ears and whiskers and oval bodies, right? The curly tail. I might have thought piggy. So when I think about if we didn't exactly get a kitty cat, it's because we didn't exactly hear more specific cues around, like, what are things that are specifically kitty cat? It's an interesting question. What do y'all think?
Definitely. I mean, I actually drew a kitty cat because I looked at the last page of the workshop. So when I printed it out, there it was, a kitty cat. So yes, exactly what you said, Wendy. We didn't have enough information to really get a cat.
Right. So yeah, you got it. Right? It's like, think about, like, if you wanted someone to specifically draw a kitty cat, like, what are some of those things? Like draw long hair, or stripes, or there could have been other clues in there. Yeah. Any other thoughts? And then I want to pass it back to Shelley, because I kind of nudged in here. She was doing just great. Any other thoughts?
Well, thank you, Anne. Excellent communication is the ability to message to somebody else and have that message be accurately received. Unfortunately, often the receiver of a message hears and understands something different than what the sender was communicating. This makes communication very susceptible to misunderstandings and conflict. So we must accept the challenge and responsibility that comes with effectively communicating with those around us. And it's not as easy as it seems on the surface, right, Wendy?
Yes, indeed. Moving into our second module, it's around the messages we send. And communication can be defined as the need to impart thoughts, opinions, or information by speech or writing to others. Yet, despite this need, it's difficult to truly express what you see, think, and feel, because you're communicating from your own unique perspectives as an individual. And I love this quote, as George Bernard Shaw once said, "The problem with communication is the illusion that it has been accomplished." And that's because communication involves both the sharing of information and the receiving of information. And between these two ends, many messages, not just one, are being sent and received. So in this module and in this section, we're going to look just a little bit further at communication by exploring a conceptual model that helps show its multi-layered intricacies. This is actually pretty cool. If you take out worksheet number 2, it's called the 4 sides of communication. And as you can see from this representation of communication by German psychologist and interpersonal communication expert Friedemann Schultz von Thun, I think I pronounced that right, the messages you are sending and receiving are comprised of 4 sides. So I'm just going to give you a little quick overview of the 4 sides of communication. And on your worksheet, we invite you to underline or highlight the key points that resonate with you most, right? We want you to get what you need out of this training tonight. So highlight or underline what's popping out or resonating for you. All right, so the 4 sides of communication. So the top side equal the facts. So this is the information, the facts or data being conveyed. This top side of a message contains some kind of information or facts or data that you're trying to convey to someone else. And this is the part of the message that is most apparent through your verbal signals, right? We try to verbally convey those things, those facts. The second side equals self-revelation. So this is what the sender is saying about him or herself. So in addition to factual information, every message also contains information about the sender. The sender is always giving away something about him or herself. This second side of a message gives hints about what is going on inside the sender, such as how he sees himself or how he would like to be seen by others. And this may occur in an explicit or implicit way. Usually it is implicit in the form of an unintended self-disclosure. The bottom side equals the relationship. So this is how the sender relates to the receiver. Every message also says something about the relationship between the sender and the receiver, what they feel for each other, and how they are connected with each other. This side of the message is also expressed through tone of voice, gestures, facial expressions, through nonverbal signals. And the fourth side equals appeal. So this is what the sender wants to affect on the part of the receiver. A message normally is not sent without a reason or intention behind it. Generally, it is linked with a wish to influence the other person in some way. The sender expects not only that his or her message will be understood, but also that the recipient will react in some way and take some sort of action as a result. So here's an example from Friedemann Schultz von Thun that illustrates his model and shows how the sender is actually sending 4 simultaneous messages that the receiver is hearing. A front side passenger in a car tells the driver, "Hey driver, the traffic light is green." The driver may understand a different message depending on which of the 4 sides of communication he hears. So if he's listening to the fact side, he could take the comment as a simple fact observation. The traffic light is green. If he's looking at the self-revelation side, the driver could take the comment to be a self-disclosure about the passenger who's, he's saying, "I'm in a hurry." That's the subtext. That's the underlying message. "Come on, I'm in a hurry." Self-revelation. On the relationship side, the driver could also perceive the comment as a concern for the driver. "I want to help you navigate because there's a lot going on." Yeah, he could take it that way. And then there's the appeal side, right? The driver could also take the comment to be an appeal. Come on, drive. Because of these four sides, a message can be meant one way by the sender and understood another way by the receiver. And this is often the reason for miscommunication with others. Connecting with someone else can be challenging, and that's why communication has rightly been called a two-way process, because it involves the sharing and receiving of information. When communicating, we have to make sure the message that was received was the same one we intended to give, and we can't assume that it was. To communicate most effectively, then, we have to think about communication from the receiver's perspective. So often it's not a lack of information that leads to poor communication, but the way our message was delivered and received. And in most cases, we don't need to do more communication, we just need to do it better. So yeah, Shelley, why don't you pick up here on for module 3, the challenge of connecting with others.
Since communication is the one activity we engage in most during our lives, it's hard to accept that it could be a major problem, or worse, something we need to learn to do better. It's also hard to see the difference between communicating information to others and genuinely connecting with others. But connecting with others is what we really want when communicating. So please pull out worksheet number 3, called The Challenge in Connecting. And think of a time when you recently met someone that you really hit it off, got along well, and felt connected. Briefly describe the situation on your worksheet and answer the questions that follow. So are you running the timer, Wendy? Are we
Yeah,
timing
how much time do you want to give them, Shelley? I'm happy to hold a timer. What do you want? 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
Let's go with 2 minutes.
Okay. Got it. Ready, set, go. 2 minutes. We've got about 30 seconds left on the timer.
Go ahead and go on to question number 2 if you already finished question 1. Think of a time when you met someone that you didn't connect with and answer the questions that follow that.
All right, that was just about another minute. We want to start to come back.
So, yeah, so come on back and let's chat about this worksheet. So what does it mean to really connect with someone? And what gets in the way of people connecting at a meaningful level? Does anybody have any input on that? Go ahead and unmute.
This is Florence. I would like to
Hi,
say
Florence.
maybe hi. I would like to say chatter in your head.
Right, so like in the four sides of communication, those maybe messages that the sender is giving not on purpose by the way they are communicating the message.
Yes.
That's a good one. And how we're always thinking about wondering what the other person is thinking of us rather than whether we're actually communicating the message properly or thoroughly to them.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody else have any input on that?
Well, Florence, thank you for bringing that up. I think that can happen on both sides of the communication there. And I actually know that sometimes when I am on the receiving end, I'm trying to figure out really what is this person trying to communicate to me beyond the words.
Yes.
So it gets messy when those words just stay in my head, you know, and not communicated
Yes.
out loud. So I think being more present and willing to set aside those preconceived ideas about what's going on,
Yes.
and just really being present and asking questions, being curious.
Yes.
Out loud, not just in our heads.
Right? And
We have to be conscious. We have to be conscious though. This has to be happening on a conscious level, because most times that chatter is going on at the subconscious level. We're not even aware.
Mm-hmm.
and Melanie has said in the comments that a lot of times, rather than actually listening to what the other person is saying, we're just waiting to reply. We're formulating what we're going to say next, rather than listening to what they're actually saying.
Yes. Yeah. That's one of the big ones.
Right. Anybody else have any input on that? Or I'll just hand it back to you, Wendy.
Well,
Well,
go ahead. I want to hear more.
I was just going to say that when I'm with someone who's waiting to just reply, I can feel that.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, he's not even like listening. Like,
Yeah.
Where is he? It's and so like my words start to falter because there's no space between the two of us to be in the present moment of the conversation. It's trying to go to the future, or a lot of times when I'm not in the present, I'm in the past because I have habits of, you know, disbelief. That chatter comes up of like, oh, you're not getting enough of that. But so it's really, really amazing how much, for me, the non-verbal energetic interactions that are happening within the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's really important for me to learn how to hold that, but also to continue with my words. Like I get lost, like I get drawn off by the energy. And then like sometimes I'm like, well, what the hell was I trying to say?
Oh, thank you, Samira. I'm laughing in just recognition, right? Because I think we've all been there sometimes, and I wonder, right? Like, yeah, the messages that I heard growing up where children were to be seen and not heard, right? It was just like, keep your mouth shut. We don't want to hear your opinions. You don't know what you're talking about. So when we would get into those little kid circles with our brothers and sisters and cousins, then it was often it got a little competitive about who could have the most power vocally, right? Or who could be right, or who could prove somebody else wrong. I mean, and maybe that's just my own dysfunction. but I wonder if like that's maybe for some of us the backstory of why we do that, of why we're like, we're listening, but we're not actually listening. We're listening for the next opening. We're listening for when we can get our point in, right? And then it's like it becomes this competitive thing. But if you don't have that nature, then you're the one that just sort of clams up and goes to hide and thinks about all the brilliant things that you could have said later and beats yourself up and then tries to insert those zingers, the next time you get a chance. And then again, it's not about listening. So we're all in our process of healing around communication, and also just like breathing and being present, like practicing that, just practicing calming ourselves down and being open to, learning some new information, as opposed to just like having the defenses up all the time. It takes practice. And so I'm so happy we're all here for this conversation. It can go pretty deep. Really, really powerful insights. Anybody else have anything that they wanted to add before we move into our next module, our next section? Any other thoughts?
Well, Melanie is commenting in the chat that
good.
she had similar situations with the kids in her family, cousins and brothers.
Right.
So she's relating to what you're talking about.
See, thank you, Melanie. I didn't think I was the only one. Yeah, thank you. So I'll go ahead and move us into the next section. This is a great conversation, though. I'm really loving how we're all participating and jumping in here. So this section is on communication effectiveness. So communication, which occupies approximately 70% of our waking hours, can feel frustrating at times depending on the topic, circumstance, or person you are communicating with. The fact is, most of us aren't aware of how to communicate in a way that produces desired results. So we continue to experience misunderstandings, resistance, and conflicts. To be a better communicator, it is important to be more aware of your communication strengths and styles, as well as those of others. So now is a real good time. I'm gonna switch to the next slide here. But go ahead and pull out worksheet number 4, assessing your communication. Okay, there we go. And reflect on the questions listed on the worksheet. And for each question, decide whether you exhibit the communication behavior listed or whether it's an area to develop. And for this assessment, it's helpful to have in mind a recent important conversation you've experienced. So I'm gonna, yeah. So think about a recent conversation that you've experienced as you move through this assessment. I'm going to put the timer for 3 minutes. So take your time and really listen to your own answers. Ready, set, go. And let's wrap it up in about 30 seconds. All right, and let's make our way back. And let's debrief a little bit here. So as you reflect on this worksheet, what do these questions reveal about effective communication? What comes up for you? Just go ahead and step up to the mic.
Well, I actually only had 2 questions where I had really clear answers to them. The other ones were kind of somewhere in the middle. So that's very, it's good information for me to have. And the 2 that were really clear were that I do make sure that the other person is felt heard and understood by me. And the other one was, do I speak in a way that the other person can understand? And no. So it's actually interesting that those 2, they're like on the same topic, depending on the receiver or the giver. So thank you.
Wow, that is revealing, isn't it? Sometimes we
Yes.
And not, not from a place of judgment, but just from a place of information, right? To be able to see something in a new way. That's really cool.
Definitely.
I think that if we had input from the people that we communicate with, that the answers to these questions might be different coming from the other side. It's really hard to assess it in a one-sided fashion like that, because we might think that we're doing it well.
Mhm. It's true. It's true. Like if you were to hire someone to do a survey about you, do an independent survey of those that you communicate with. I don't know. Yeah, that is interesting. It would be really revealing, wouldn't it, to hear, because this is I might be going on a little bit of a tangent here, but um, uh, a little while ago, about a week or so ago, I taught an acting class, and I thought it would be useful to teach a feedback technique, because we don't often learn how, like healthy ways to give and receive feedback from each other. But feedback is so valuable if you're in a place to receive it, if you're in kind of like a neutral, receptive place to receive feedback from others. And so does anyone else have any thoughts about these questions? What do these questions reveal about effective communication? Any other thoughts about that? Well, how about this one? Based on your insights gained from this activity, what is one thing you can do differently the next time you have a conversation with someone? And if you're talking, oh, Florence has raised her hand. Do we need to unmute you, Florence? Let me see if I need to unmute you. If you can unmute yourself, please go right ahead and share. Allowed to talk. Okay. There you go, Florence. I think you're going to have to unmute yourself, my dear. Oh, there you are. There you are.
Okay, great. I just know that I would have to think. I think I would have to think more very, very clearly as to what it is I would like to express.
Mm-hmm.
And I have an idea that you have to also try to consider what your impact, what the impact of what you're going to say might have on the other person. I think that's those are two things I would like to consider.
Yeah, and that's really powerful because you're thinking about it from both ends, right? You're thinking about what is my intention? What is the message that I want the receiver to understand, And that's, it's like, I want them to hear my heart. I want them to hear the truth from my heart. And then how is that going to affect them, right? And so, when you hold that too, then you can think about your delivery and, speaking that message from a place of compassion and understanding and non-judgment, right? Because we're all mirrors for each other, right? So how would you best receive it if someone was needed to deliver that communication to you? How would you want to hear it? There's a lot, but yeah, taking the time to really feel into the intention. What is it that I want to say, and what is what is the impact of my message? How do I want it to be received? That's really That is really powerful insights, Florence. Thank you for coming off mute. I'm going to kind of wrap up this section. You are also wise. You're bringing some really powerful insights to the table. And if you want to be a better communicator, try to remember these truths. Vocal communication is using the power of your voice. Your voice, let me see if I can get to this next slide here. It's hard to see in the white. See if I can find my cursor here. Let me try to go back here. Oh, there it is. It is. That's what I want to be. Okay, so your voice contributes 7% to the effectiveness of your message. That's less than 10% of the entire communication. Your voice, how you sound when you're speaking, contributes 38% to the effectiveness of your message. Visual communication is the subliminal message you are sending. Your body language, which is what you do and how you look when speaking, contributes 55%, over half, to the effectiveness of your message. Nonverbal communication is what people see when they're looking back at you. Be aware of what is being communicated with your eyes, your face, your posture, how you carry yourself, your stance, how you place yourself in relation to other people, gestures, expressions, body movement, proximity to other people. You want your voice and your words and your body language to be working together to communicate your message successfully and accurately to others. And we're going to move into our next section of the training, but before we do, we're going to have our little commercial break here. So this is some of the fun, free stuff that we do all the time that we just invite you to join us. It's really easy to feel isolated these days, but here are some ways that you can connect with Shelley and I at the Way of Truth. If you look over on the right, Shelley has been since mid-August, Monday through Friday, from 10 to 10:30 a.m. She's building Creative Morning Magic for those who show up. It's absolutely free, and it's a way to set the tone for your day, for your week, to really get your thinking on a very positive vibe. And it is nothing short of miraculous. It's backed up by science. Every day she has a new topic for us. It's not necessarily discussion. She gives us a topic. She takes us through a meditation. We do some journaling, but I've been showing up consistently, and it's Creative Morning Magic every day, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. for, take advantage of it. And the way you do is you go to thewayoftruth.live/magic. So I'm going to recommend that you just write down these tags, right? The Way of Truth is going to be the beginning of each, wayoftruth.live. It's going to be the beginning of each one. And then you've got a tag. So write down the word magic. That's our Creative Morning Magic. The virtual coffee date with Wendy. I just want to talk to you. I just think we should have coffee. I just really like coffee. And I really want to know what's on your heart and how best to support you. There is a free coaching element that's part of this membership. You can take advantage of it or not. But this is my way of being accessible to you. So I'm just going to recommend you write down that tag too, which is virtual coffee with Wendy. And you'll be sent to a calendar, and you'll see when I'm available, and we can make a date. I can see you, and we can practice communicating together. It'll be fun. So I wanted to share that slide with you. And then here are some of our next free events that are coming up in December. Our next New Moon Sister Circle in Sagittarius is December 13th. Vibrant Gratitude. We're really actually going to be diving into the heroine's journey For those of you who have taken advantage of our sister circles, they're really pretty special. We're synchronizing with sister circles all across the planet. It's part of the global sisterhood movement, where we're setting intentions every new moon around the themes of the moon astrology. So Vibrant Gratitude, the Heroine's Journey. Hope you can join us for that. The tag there is Sisterhood. So just write that down. And then our next full moon master class in December, it'll be in Cancer. And our topic is the rhythm and blues of empathy. I think we could all use some more empathy as we are healing and moving into this new year and into the new changes that we're adjusting to. And these are free. So the tag for that one is empathy. So I hope you have written down magic, virtual coffee with Wendy, sisterhood, empathy, and then the last but not the least exciting thing that we're working on here is Scrooge and Dickens. So last year we did this production live at the Oasis Coffee and Tea House. This year, obviously, we can't, but the cast had such a good time last year. We even talked then about doing it again this year. So we are pivoting, and this is in production now. I'm putting it together as a webinar style radio play. So it will be playing over our local radio station, but for a limited time, you can actually see all the visuals, because it'll be a movie essentially. There will be some Shelley's in it. She plays Mrs. Dickens, and she also plays Jacob Marley, and Mel, who's on the call today, he plays Scrooge. And so you want to write down this tag, Scrooge 2020, and as soon as I have it up, it'll be playing around Christmas, and might be a fun family thing to do. So wanted to let you know about the fun things that we have coming up. And then we're going to go ahead and move into the next section of our training. All right. So, Shelley, why don't you take it away? The messages we receive.
Well, thank you. Okay, so when asked to define communication, most people describe the techniques used to express what they think and feel. However, listening is more important than speaking in communication. So to improve your communication, good listening skills must be a key part of your communication strategy. So put down your pen, sit back in your chair and get comfortable. For the next minute, close your eyes and listen to your surroundings, noticing the sounds you hear in the silence. Wendy, do you have the timer going?
How much time should I give us?
It says 1 minute.
1 minute. Okay. Ready, set, go. All right, and our minute is complete.
So what did you hear in the silence of your surroundings? Who would like to share what you heard in the silence? go ahead and unmute.
Well, I enjoyed the silence of no papers shuffling first. And then it was pure silence. I'm actually in a place where it can be silent. And then I heard myself going into gratitude. And that was it.
Beautiful, beautiful. There is no silence where I am. I'll tell you that. My computer is very loud. I have a snoring dog laying at my feet and lots of traffic going on outside. So anybody else? What else? Melanie said, I had no silence and I am wearing headphones.
This is Wendy. I enjoyed silence, and then I heard self-consciousness. Like, are you rustling papers, Wendy? Are you making noise? And then I heard a few like negative internal voices, and then I heard shh, silence, and I got silent again. So there was a little bit of conversation inside of the silence in my head.
Anybody else have anything to share? How about what internal disposition do we need to have in order to truly hear what's going on around us? I'm not quite sure what that question is getting at, Wendy.
Well, you know, what comes to me is internal disposition. Patience, maybe. You know, in order for me to be present, then I have to be patient. I have to give myself permission. So that's what comes up for me around that question. Internal disposition, a willingness to be with silence. Silence can sometimes make us feel really uncomfortable. I'd be interested to hear what other people think.
In the comments, we have Melanie saying maybe having no agenda, which is a great one. Having agenda, right? And then Florence said the same thing as you, Wendy, being present.
Right.
Anybody else have any input on what it takes to truly hear what's going on? Well, listening seems quite passive and easy, right? We think that we're just sitting there doing nothing, but we all know it takes discipline and focus to be a good listener. Most people think they are good listeners and that they hear everything people tell them, but are these people really listening when they hear what people are telling them? Do they really comprehend what is behind the words being expressed? When it comes to listening, the way we listen determines what we hear. Listening is an in-the-moment skill that only the very best possess because they practice it. This means all of us have the capability of being good listeners. We just need to work at it. So next, you will evaluate your listening skills.
Woohoo! We're gonna take a quiz. We're gonna take a quiz to assess our current listening skills, right? You know, I remember when we did this training last year. I was like, I came into it thinking I'm a really good listener, like I work on this, but this can be a very revealing quiz. So I just invite you to be really open to it, because when communicating, it's important to follow up, right? To be certain that you connected when speaking with someone else. With communication, you're not just delivering a message, but you are receiving a message as well. So how do you connect when you're receiving information from someone else, when you are the listener during communication? So let's take out worksheet number 5, listening quiz. And we're going to take a short quiz that will help you examine your listening skills. Answer usually, sometimes, or seldom to each question. And everything is pretty self-explanatory on this worksheet. I don't think I need to read it out for you. But I am going to give you, let's see, I'm going to give you, actually, I'm going to give you 3 long minutes to work on this. There's a scoring too. I'll check in with you after 3 minutes and see if anybody needs more time. All right, here we go. And we got about 30 seconds left on the clock. All right, and does anyone need more time for scoring? Is everyone complete? Does anyone need more time? All right, let's come back and just debrief a little bit. Like I said, this can be very revealing. So I'd love to hear from a few brave volunteers. What did you learn about your listening skills from this assessment? And based on your results, what can you do to improve your listening? What comes up for you?
Well, Wendy, in the comments, Melanie is saying, I'm not giving my score, LOL. My higher self guided me to take a course.
Oh.
And she says, I could use more development, and I am working toward this goal. She's actually taking a course on mindful listening.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Thank you, Melanie. Yes. Yes, we're all in process. And I see I'm looking at the chat here that Florence had to leave. She says, very sorry, totally grasping this, totally grateful, but I need to leave. Yes. So grateful, Florence, for your presence and the time that you had. And thank you, Melanie. Yeah. Yeah, we're all in process. And like I said, this was like, it was kind of humbling for I'm a coach, right? Like I studied this, right? I'm supposed to be expert at this. But when I took that quiz, I was like, okay, that's humbling, that's revealing, but it's doable, right? It's just like kind of it just kind of brings more into my awareness of how I can be an even better listener, right? Because I do value that. I'm wondering if anyone else has some insights or comments about what you learned about your listening skills and what you might do to improve.
I'll speak up.
Hey, Mel.
And the reason I haven't spoken till now is because my listening skill was a 30. Which actually was probably higher than I expected. I usually have much more to say than I actually listen. I'm always the person that is waiting to get my point in when other people are talking. And during the silent period, there's never silence in my head, never. So I have a long way to go for listening.
And we all do, right? It's thank you for speaking up, because that's just the truth. It's like we're all a bit siloed. We have these, these egos and these defense mechanisms and these old habits around listening or not listening, or defensive listening as opposed to reflective listening, and these are things that we can, when we stop beating ourselves up about it, right? That's the first part for me. It's like, can you just drop the bat? Wendy, can you just stop beating yourself up and, no, you're human, right? And we're all on this course, and we're all like stretching and expanding, learning, and yeah, we're in a good community to do that. Thank you, Mel, for speaking up. You're not alone. We're all in a process, and we're, the nice thing is that we don't have to be siloed in that process. We can kind of be together and move through it together with some compassion. Yes. Melanie says, very brave, Mel. She says, yes, I was stunned by my scores before the course. Very brave. The first step is knowing we have, well, yes. Just like in AA, right? The first step is admitting, is confessing, yes, I have a problem with communication. I'm Wendy. And then we can go from there. Awesome. Thank you so much. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share?
Well, this is Samira, and yeah, I got a 75.
Woo!
Which I guess is doing well, but there are areas that could be developed. And yeah, I usually think that I'm a pretty good listener, but the ones that in this listening quiz where I didn't get the high points, yeah, it was very interesting. Let's see. Make a conscious effort to evaluate the logic and credibility of what I hear. So I am definitely kind of gullible and determine my own biases, if any, and try to allow for them. So one of the things that I know that I do in my communicating is reflects back to something you pointed out earlier, Wendy, about just, being in the background. And so I always, in the past, I've tried to, not tried, but in the past, it's been my habit to always put the other person first.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting for me to have that, be part of the key of this particular quiz where I got lesser points. And ensure that I've considered the other person's point of view before answering. That one I did sometimes. And it's interesting because that's reflected to the other one about my own biases and stuff. Because I think some of these questions, it would be, looking from a quiz taker's point of view, like maybe a little more elaborative
Mm-hmm.
before you answer the question. But I guess maybe that one I would want a little coaching around. Ensure that I've considered the other person's point of view before answering.
Mm-hmm.
For someone who doesn't always consider their own point of view first,
Mm-hmm.
what's the importance of trying to consider the other person's point of view before answering? Like, so that it makes sense to them how you're answering? Or
I think we're about to get into that, actually, into our next section here, our next module. But yeah, I think, what it comes down to is seeking to understand before seeking to be understood, which is not our training. That's not our default. Our default is to make sure the other person understands what we mean and that we're not trying to offend, and that, like, we get real. So yeah, that's what I would, it's really just kind of like relaxing, right? Breathe, relax, let yourself elevate up a little bit to kind of look at the wider perspective of what's going on in the dynamic, which can be hard to do when you're like, in it, right? And you're like, oh, am I offending, and all the fear and all of that, but just like trying to look at what's happening in the bigger picture. And that's not our default either. That's something that we can experiment and try and just kind of like start to challenge ourselves. But yeah, and inside of a coaching relationship too, you can practice certain things. You can practice certain communication techniques. You can practice reflective listening. Some fun things like that. And that can be really helpful. But yeah, I think, that's what comes up for me around your question is just trying to open up beyond your own perspective and seek to understand. And you may not, and your message may not land. I mean, as hard as you try, your message may not land the way that you want it to, right? But at a certain point, it's like, if you've done your best, if you were intentional, right? If you did the best you could, right? Then, at a certain point, it's like it landed or it didn't, but I did my best, right? So it's all a practice, right? And the way that we listen really determines what we hear. Listening requires focus, and that means paying attention to the other person in spite of distractions that are happening both externally and internally. And Shelly's gonna show us this really cool, it's a simple tool that you can use to remind yourself to listen with your full attention and to clarify your understanding and to always listen with respect. And it's called Listening with Care. So I'm going to pass it over to Shelly to share this tool, Listening with Care.
Thank you. So if you listen with care, it means you listen with the purpose of trying to understand the meaning of the message, which means you are fully engaged in the communication process. So taking out worksheet number 6 that just has listening with care, and it's got a big CARE, Please take notes. In order to listen actively, you have to care about those you are listening to. So this means C is for concentrate. Make an effort to focus your attention only on the speaker and avoid any distractions. A stands for acknowledge through body language and verbal cues. So this includes leaning into the conversation, nodding your head, smiling when appropriate, or saying, this assures the other person that you are engaged in the communication process. They know that you're listening that way. The R stands for respond. Ask questions for clarification and to express interest in the other person and paraphrase back what you're hearing. That's a really good one because sometimes when we paraphrase back, it turns out that we completely got it wrong, what that person was saying, and that gives them a chance to explain it in a way that we can understand it better. So paraphrasing is a good tool to use in responding. And then the E stands for empathize, which means sharing in the emotions and feelings of the other person. Empathy means you understand and can put yourself in their shoes. So the next time you're involved in an important conversation, pause the chatter in your mind, which we've all noticed is a trying task, and start really listening. It's amazing what you will discover. Remember what we said earlier. Everyone wants to and has a need to connect through communication. Especially with listening, we all want to be heard. If you keep this in mind, it'll be easier for you to make a concerted effort to listen to others rather than focusing primarily on your own agenda or thoughts.
I just wanted to put these up here for you. If you wanted to write those down again. So we're coming up to the end of our time together. This has been a really powerful training, and you've all participated really wonderfully, and it's been great to hear your voice and get your input in the chat. Thank you, Melanie. We're gonna lock this in. So what I'd love you to do is just take a minute and review your notes and your worksheets and just write down 3 key points that resonated with you most. And as you go through, what were like the 3 biggest ahas or nuggets that your takeaways? Let's take about a minute and just collect that. And now take another minute and write down somewhere in your notes what technique or techniques you'll practice going forward to better communicate your message and ensure that it has been received. Like for me, that might mean taking the time to really think about what it is, my intention, right? That conversation I was having with Florence earlier, getting clarity around my intention of what I want to communicate, and being mindful of its impact, how I want to say it, with what tone, You know, where do I want my energy to be? Just go ahead and take a minute and write down for yourself what technique or techniques you will practice going forward to better communicate your message and ensure that it has been received. And now in our last minute, write down what technique or techniques you will practice to ensure that you are truly listening to others and understanding what is meant to be communicated. And maybe it's this listening with care. You know, maybe it's you know, learning this technique, but go ahead and take a few, or just, you know, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and just write down for yourself what technique or techniques you'll practice to ensure you're truly listening to others and understanding what is meant to be communicated. All right, and that about locks us in for the evening. One thing I wanted to say, thank you all very much for your time and your presence and participating today. This is the full moon in Gemini. It's also a lunar eclipse. So our words are very powerful tonight. If you're going to be setting intentions, it can have impact over the next 6 months. So really speak into what you want to create in your life over the next 6 months. Maybe it's security with all the, you know, chaos going on that's outside of our control. Maybe it's a sense of groundedness. Maybe it's a sense of community, even though, you know, we're not able to, you know, be together in one place consistently or safely. Maybe it's you know, internal relationship. Really speak your intentions this evening under this big, bright, wonderful Gemini Beaver full moon, around what you want, around what you want to create, and move powerfully in that direction, because the energy is really aligning to support you in that over the next 6 months. Thank you so much. This concludes our webinar on effective communication. You now have a powerful toolbox full of ways to communicate your message and ensure that others receive the message you desire to send, and ensure that you're truly hearing others. And the result that's available to us is better communication, healthier relationships, and greater happiness. I hope you wrote down those tags. You can hang out with Shelly Monday through Friday from 10 to 10:30. Go to thewayoftruth.live/magic. We can have virtual coffee. I hope we will. And then we have the moon events coming up in December. And all of this will be coming out in the monthly newsletter. And thank you so much. Shelly, is there anything that you'd like to say in conclusion, or anyone else? Is there anyone who'd like to say anything before we close our webinar tonight?
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you, Mal.
Thank
you, everyone.
Thank you for being here.
All right, everyone. Have a blessed evening. Love you lots. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Love you.
Bye-bye.